This is Günther Fehlinger. I'm the chairman of the Austrian Committee for NATO Enlargement for Ukraine, Austria, Bosnia, Kosovo and the EU. And I'm also the author of Fehlinger Doctrine, is the concept for victory of the West, unity of the West. This is what we also promote in our association. We promote, of course, victory of the West, the free world. And the free world must be much more united in the European Union, in NATO, in the Euro, and of course in free trade agreements like Mercosur, and also the defeat of our enemies, Russia, Iran. And we will see if India at the moment it's hostile, if they join the free world with a EU free trade agreement, then of course this changes, and we will see where we stand on China. If they are starting hostilities, they will be defeated and dismantled. So that's the logic, and I think it's very clear. We are much more united. Fragmentation of our enemies, that's Fehlinger Doctrine, and we should also apply that on Syria. I'm very worried on Syria. I think it's much better to have ex-Syria, but this video is now about Iran. Because let's not fool ourselves, Greenland, Iceland, and all these issues. Of course, we have one and two big issues which are really important globally for 2026. That's the victory of Ukraine. I made many videos about it. We need 1 trillion euro bonds. We need to supply Ukraine to the maximum, integrate Ukraine in NATO, the European Union, and in, of course, the Euro. And we need to win the war like that. But now let's come to Iran, because it's the most burning issue. The Iranians are dying in thousands, and the regime is killing thousands of people, probably 20,000, 30,000. The exact numbers will be established once we have liberated Iran. And that's what we need to do. We need to liberate Iran with American firepower. And I call for American and NATO military intervention in Iran. That's absolutely their priority. And all the questions about what's happening with Iran afterwards, we have to settle after the Ayatollah regime and the Mullah regime has fallen. And of course, justice has been re-established. And of course, I'm very much for a free, federal, democratic market economy. Iran, part of the West, no longer in OPEC, no longer in BRICS, no longer aligned with Russia, no longer aligned with China, but part of the free world. This is what we have to achieve, and therefore we need all the ethnic, all the religious groups, all the political groups to be united for regime change and to rise the moment the Americans are starting to strike. And we need all NATO to support the liberation campaign, and not to have a mess like in Iraq, where we have been divided, and in Syria, where we have been non-active. We need to be active. We need to be united. This is Fehlinger Doctrine, NATO to be one unit, to move for regime change in Iran. And of course, all the ethnic, religious, political groups of Iran who were killed and tortured by the Ayatollahs must rise simultaneously the moment the Americans strike. And they will strike soon, and you must be prepared. Save your metal for the moment, but then all rise together. And if the Shah will be the Shah, let's not fight for this one at that moment. And what will be the role of the regions? Obviously, in a free market democracy, they will be free and living in a democracy with human rights, property rights, regional rights, language rights, and also the rights which any minority has anywhere in the free world. And that will be the future. Separatism we should not encourage. If, the revolution will not come, and if we will fail, and if Ayatollah will continue to be an enemy state, then of course ex-Iran will be what I will propose. And I have proposed it in the past, and I will fight for ex-Iran if the Ayatollahs will cling on to power and Iran will stay a hostile country. If Iran will be a friendly country, a pro-Western country, I will definitely be very happy about free federal Iran being part of the West. But this we first have to achieve. And everybody will live much better. Of course, not the regime supporters. Many of them will be dead. There's no doubt about it. But what we need to do right now is to build a coalition for regime change. Because the American regime change effort will not be successful if it's just some strikes and some air supremacy, some military assets destroyed. It must be a simultaneously effort of rising and of liberation. And only that can change such an entrenched regime, which has the support of Russia and China. And of course, they're also fighting for their lives because they have stolen so much, 50 years, they killed so many people. They know that there will be a very, very bleak ending for them if they lose the power, and so they will also defend the leverages of power in the coming weeks. And so they have also killed so many people, and they will take revenge. So let's not fool ourselves. This will be a very bloody affair. This will be very, very, very terrible. And that will be the outcome, of course, will be potentially extremely good. And it's worth the risk. It's worth to do it. And we need regime change. Don't chicken out again, Mr. Taco President, United States President. We need now this effort because the ones with the guns need to be neutralized in order to have freedom established. That's the historic truth. It was always like that, and it will be as well in the case of Iran. And you have liberated the Europe from the Nazis, so it's now time to liberate Iran from the Ayatollahs. This is the task of the leader of the free world. You have the full endorsement of the free world. You have the full support. And I call all Europeans to support American leadership when it comes to intervention and liberation of Iran. We will not have a second disaster like in Iraq with completely division and problems. We must have a full focus on that one. And that's the most important task of our generation. And it will lead to the victory of Ukraine because this key ally of Iran will break away for Russia, and being a Russian ally, after the second ally is defeated, after Maduro is out, Iran is liberated, nobody wants to be an ally of Russia again, and Putin will have a very big defeat ahead of him, because we then have to shift also from the European side into gear and then to supply the financial means which are needed for Ukraine's victory, because with enough money they can win.